G'day, Geoff Lewis here from Seriously Series. Once again, I've got the bonnet up on the Series 2 here. But what I wanted to look at today is something very important in regards to your four-wheel drive vehicle, particularly if it's a petrol-derived vehicle. What we're going to be looking at is how to statically time your motor. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to be showing you today how you can actually get the ignition timing spot on without the use of a stop lamp or a timing light. And this means if you're a little bit hard pressed for cash, don't worry, you don't have to go and buy extra tools. I've been doing it on this vehicle for years and it works an absolute treat. So if you want to find out an ingenious way of being able to solve an ignition timing issue out in the bush or even in the shed, you know what to do. Stay tuned. Rightio, so this Land Rover Series 2 was built in December of 1961. So obviously things were done a little bit differently back then. Doing the ignition timing on it is actually a real pain, and I'm going to fix that in a future video, and don't worry, I'll keep you informed as I actually do that. One of the issues is that timing marks generally on most motors are actually on the front, and there's obviously a little cut in the actual crank pulley. So as this spins around and the piston comes up and it gets ready to fire, you can use a timing light, which is similar to this one here. Now basically it's got a bulb in there, I've got a trigger action there, I've got a negative, I've got a positive, and then I've got a little sensor that I put on the cylinder that fires first, which is generally cylinder 1, but there are odd motors out there that fire on cylinder 2 or 6 first, so just be mindful of that. So you can generally use that on a more modern vehicle and a more modern car, but it doesn't really work here because I've actually got to look at the timing marks on the back of the motor. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really simple and it doesn't take long at all. Obviously the first time you do it you're going to stuff it up a few times, but don't worry, third time lucky, you'll get it smack bang on. So anyway, I'll move you in a little bit closer and I'll show you what I've done and I'll show you how I've gone about it. Rightio, so the first tool that you need is one of these, and this is a crank handle, and that is probably the handiest tool that you'll get with any series Land Rover. If you don't have one, you need to pick one up. It's absolutely vital, because what we actually do is we put the crank handle into the front of the motor. I can then turn the engine over, so as I'm turning it over, obviously the flywheel is moving round. And we need that to happen because what we have to do is we have to get the timing marks on the flywheel to line up with the pointer or the actual reference point. So a lot of cars that don't have crank handles, they're an absolute pain because you've got to either turn them over by trying to use the fan or pulling on the fan belt, or slowly by using the starter motor. So this just makes life so much easier. So first thing that we need to ascertain is what is the compression stroke, what is the exhaust stroke. Now an easy way of doing this is obviously taking off your, get you over here, your rocket cover, which is exactly what I've done. I've taken it off and therefore I can see all the valves working. Next thing, get yourself a screwdriver like this and take the spark plug out of cylinder 1. This means I can actually put the screwdriver in, and as I crank around very slowly, mind you, I can actually see the screwdriver slowly push out of cylinder 1. That way I know it's actually on the compression stroke. really simple, isn't it? You need to be careful though. If you get to the top of the compression stroke and the screwdriver gets stuck, you'll need to get on the fan and just turn it back a little bit and pull the screwdriver out. So that's really easy. Anyway, I'll put you back on the tripod and explain a bit more. So now I've explained how you can see how it's actually going to work on the compression stroke by the screwdriver slowly popping out. What we need to do is we need to get the lead from the coil to the distributor, and because we've taken the spark plug out of cylinder 1, we'll put the spark plug in it. Now, depending on where your coil's situated in the engine bay, it's ideal to actually get the spark plug and arc it out on the motor. This won't damage any of your electrics in the car, so we just want a little gap between the spark plug and obviously the piece of metal on the motor. This doesn't work in my vehicle because I've got the coil on the driver's side guard. So what I do instead is I just simply put it on top of the mount for the brake reservoir, and this works really well too. You just want it to be obviously a piece of iron that is obviously got no paint on it and is obviously connected to the chassis in some way. It's earthed out. The reason why we do that is very, very simple. Once we've aligned the flywheel to the desired degrees of off top dead center, right? So we will either want it to fire depending on the octane of fuel. If it's 90 to 95 octane, it'll be 6 degrees for a Series 2. We'll want it to fire 6 degrees before it gets to the top. If it's, I think if it's 90 to 85 litres, not 90 to 85 litres, if it's 80 to 85 octane, then we want it to be 3 degrees, so a little bit closer to top dead centre. And if it's 75 octane, because this is a earlier motor with a 7:1 compression ratio, we want it to be top dead centre. So we need to decide what is the grade of fuel that we're going to be running in the vehicle. Most Western countries and most sort of first world countries, you would hope that you would be running 90, 95, but I've been in situations in the Australian outback where I'm very dubious even if it was 80. So knowing this is actually really important, because if you get out on the road and you get a really bad batch of fuel, you can just pull over, whip the bonnet up like what I've got here, just adjust your timing very quickly and you'll be able to keep running and the car will run much, much better. Obviously we're going to be running on 90 to 95 octane, so we want the flywheel to be at the designated increment of 6 degrees off top dead centre. So that's what I've done in here. I'll show you that now just so you've got a bit of a reference, and then I'll explain in greater detail the relevance of the spark plug here. Okay, so as we can see, this is at the rear of the engine and there's a little inspection hatch. And as we can see, we've got this large cog in there, which is the flywheel. And you can probably just make out, I do apologise for the picture quality, TDC, which is top dead centre. And then we have a line next to it. Now I can't quite get you in there to show you, obviously, 3 and 6, but the pointer is actually to the top left-hand corner of the actual inspection hatch. And obviously there is where we've got it lined up with the line which goes across the flywheel along with the designation of 6, so 6 degrees off top dead centre. So that's basically that there. Rightio, so as we know, we've got the motor set to 6 degrees off top dead centre. Now what we need to do is we need to slacken off the pinch bolt for the distributor, which is basically, as you can see here, just underneath. I'll give you a close-up shot of that. Once we've loosened that off, that'll enable us to be able to turn the distributor either way, right? As I mentioned earlier with the spark plug, we've got that so it's arced out onto a metal surface that's connected with the vehicle. What we want to do is we want to get the points in the distributor to open. By them opening, this will cause a spark to occur on the spark plug, and that means that we've got the distributor in the correct spot. So you'll have to move it backwards and forwards a couple of times before you get it. And I'll show you now. So I've switched the ignition on. So obviously power is going to the coil. And now I'm just going to turn the distributor ever so slightly. And you'll hear just a very, very faint click, click. Now it pays to do this in an area that's obviously undercover, so you can actually see the spark. And anyway, I'll get you in there a bit closer and show you that now. Well, there you go. It's that simple. And one of the best manuals that you can actually look to referring to this is actually the original Land Rover manual, which comes in 2 parts. And this is probably one of the most useful manuals you can actually get for these vehicles. It goes through absolutely everything. It really isn't difficult and it isn't hard to do, and these motors are incredibly forgiving. So get out there, give it a go yourself, and if you have any questions, feel free to put a comment down below. Now, if you are enjoying the content here at Seriously Series, then please do consider supporting us on Patreon. All proceeds go to these videos, and obviously the more support we get, the more videos and the more content we'll be bringing your way. If that isn't your style, you can support us via our website, through PayPal. And if you're new to the channel, then please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below, click on that notification button too, and that way you won't miss out on one single video. Anyway, I hope to see you in our next video.